Okay, hello, my name is Paul Wallace of DDN, and welcome to our session today, entitled 3 Ways to Simplify Data Migration for AI, Analytics and HPC. I'd like to start first today by thanking our partners Atempo for hosting us today in this joint event. Atempo and DDN have joined forces to build a range of solutions to help you move and migrate data at scale, and we'll be looking at how that can help with those data migration challenges. Feel free to post questions during the session via the question panel on your console. We've scheduled 30 minutes for today's session, and we'll be covering a lot of interesting material in a very short time. So we'll aim to go through the questions at the end, but we'll keep an eye out for any interesting comments and remarks that come in during the main session, okay? But before we start, let's set some context. AI and high-performance computing applications require massive amounts of data. And with many organizations investing in AI, we know that we'll be dealing with massively higher data volumes in 3 to 5 years than we do even now. And that trend seems to be accelerating every year. So, for example, in artificial intelligence applications, we're already seeing learning models with billions of objects. The GPT-3 model, for example, in natural language processing, is like 175 billion parameters, which is more than 20 times the predecessor model, GPT-2. In analytics, financial services, we're seeing real-time data streams handling billions of transactions a day. And in HPC and research, we're tackling the big science and engineering problems of cosmology, high-energy physics, and fluid dynamics. So in this session, we're going to look at how organizations can approach the challenge of managing petabytes of data across the entire life cycle, from creation, aggregation, processing, and archive, maintaining efficiency and compliance and visibility across that whole process. Let's move on, talk about our guest speakers for today. I'm excited to be joined by Mike Oakes from Atempo. He's a 30-year veteran in the data management industry from Atempo. Welcome, Mike. Good to have you on.
Hey, Paul. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. And I'd also like to introduce Maria Gutierrez from DDN. Maria is responsible for the integration and adoption of the data flow solution from DDN. Thanks for joining us, Maria.
Thanks, Paul.
That's good. So why don't we hand over to you straight away, Maria, for you to tell us about yourself and DDN and data flow.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Paul, for the introduction. So I'm Maria Gutierrez. No, I'm responsible for data flow product at DDN. And today, first, I would like to introduce you in the next few minutes who we are, who is DDN, and who do we serve. So, who is DDN? So, DDN is the largest privately held storage company in the world. So, we have summarized here on this slide in a few figures, DDN for you. So, actually, the first thing that better represents us is our customers. So we have more than 10,000 customers worldwide and from multiple markets. And actually, I will go a bit more into detail and I will present you some of them. DDN is a company with more than 20 years of history solving the toughest data management and storage challenges in the industry. So coming from the high-performance computing world, where our systems have been the de facto solution and been used to solve the largest data problems for years, we have evolved in a very natural way to address the demanding needs of fast-growing applications like AI, deep learning, and analytics are the really hungry data applications. So today, we count with more than 1,000 employees around the globe, all focus on storage who serve our customers to enable them to achieve results faster in the most efficient way. And to finish this summary, so we have 10 technology centers around the world. So here at DDN, we do a significant investment in R&D to continuously bring the cutting-edge technology to the market. So going back to our customers, at DDN, we serve the whole spectrum of markets and customers who has a large data challenge. So we differ from most companies which deliver data storage because first, we are 100% focused on storage and data management. So that's our core and unique business. And our team is made of the best specialists on storage at scale. And secondly, we have been solving for a very long time the challenge that happened at scale, not from our HPC history. Of course, today, at scale does not mean the same that used to. So the fast spread of AI, deep learning, analytics, across many organizations, whether it is on the research or on the commercial world, on the life science or finance, they all have these huge data challenges on which actually we happen to have the experience to have been addressing them for years. So here on this slide, you can see that we have customers, our customers are really prestigious and they go all the way from the medium to the very large size. So we count between them with the large national labs, life science institutes, and of course as well enterprise customers, and specifically all enterprise that they have the really, they need to manage data at very large scale. And well, between our customers, we include as well government, academia, and all those customers for all these kind of different sectors, they are today solving and addressing these large data volumes and managing them using our technology. Last, wanted to present our DDM business unit. So DDM has acquired over the past years various storage technologies and has brought them together into a common portfolio. So today, together to our at-scale division, where we solve these very large data volumes, as I was describing, we have an enterprise division, this Team 3 by DDM. So with this, we offer the experience and a full range of products for enterprise virtualization, databases, and clouds, between others. So with these two business units, brings the best of both worlds. And in this way, at DDM, we are in the position to address the customer needs of the entire storage market. But with that, so I don't want to distract you, from the topic of today. And with this, you should get an idea, so who we are and what we do. And with that, wanted to hand over to you, Mike.
Hey, thanks, Maria. So real quickly, let me tell you a little bit about Tempo. So at Tempo, we bring to bear about 25 years of experience in the field of data protection, management, data preservation. As you see by the slides, 2,000 customers, 200 employees worldwide. We're actually well north of that. And our solutions enable organizations to preserve their data ecosystems, and that's regardless of the data set size, its location, or even the organization size. And the solution's designed to protect, store, facilitate movement, provide easily searchable functionality, and quick retrieval of data, basically any data, anywhere, anytime. So for what we're talking about today, we're talking about crafting a comprehensive storage strategy for, petabyte scale analytics, HPC. And there's some serious challenges that needed to be addressed. And one of the things, the first one, of course, the bullet says it all, right? Scalable capacity management. You need to be able to manage data wherever it resides in the data landscape, manage it efficiently. And it goes to the second bullet in hybrid infrastructures, because you may not have all, and most don't, have all the same types of data appliances. You may need to bring something off cloud into an exascaler, maybe go from exascaler to grid scaler, some type of NAS. So you need I call them hybrid, or they call them hybrid infrastructure. I call it more of a heterogeneous infrastructure, right? Bringing all the tools of an alliance or an organization to bear to be used in their preservation and data protection. And that goes directly to thinking about availability of data and air gap protection, especially with the advent of more cryptoviruses and so forth, having things on tape, or there's a notion of hybrid, we'll call it air gap, where the network will spin up, data will be moved to the target appliance, and then the network will be spun back down. So it keeps it rather segregated. But the real big one we're talking about today, especially with migration, right, it's reliable data migration. How do I get all of my data from my source to my target? And that means all file system permissions, all ACLs, all file system semantics, but do it seamlessly without impacting user workflows and production workflows. And that's important. You can't be impacting user workflows when you're trying to migrate to a newer store, something bigger, better, faster. And the last one here we saw as a major challenge, right? Flexibility and scalability. Flexible enough because there's always a new type of storage coming down the pike, and you need to have an appliance that's designed to be able to upgrade to that newer piece of storage. You don't have to do a forklift upgrade of your software. And scalable enough because most solutions, they'll start small. In some arenas, in this arena, we're talking about HPC and I, they're rather very large, but you want to be able to expand when needed, not be constricted by the appliance itself. So that's what Dataflow does really well, the ability to scale out and scale up when needed. So that being said, what you see here, think of these as the 4 pillars, right, of Dataflow, right? So at the top and the bottom, you see backup and archiving. Think of those, the tried and true data protection preservation. So backup, from DR, things I need immediately back in case of some kind of nefarious act or something's happened to my file or files. But then archiving at the bottom, you have think of long-term preservation, right? Being able to move things off. I don't need things that are over 6 months old and haven't been touched in, 4 months or haven't been accessed. Whatever those thresholds are you want to set, you can tear those off. Let's get rid of them. Right, let's move them to another piece of storage, move them to cloud, so something cheaper, so not taking up our production storage. The big one we're talking about today is more of migration. That's the one you see at the 3 o'clock position, right? So and that's the one which is basically a heterogeneous tool, move your source data to some newer target, something bigger, faster, smarter, right? Let's get on an Nexus Zero, let's get on a Grid Zero, let's come off a NAS. But once you do that too, one quick point with this tool, right? Dataflow allows you, once you do the migration, now you need to protect it. Now you just need to license backup, maybe license archive, license the capacity, whatever workflow you need. But another one that was added, you'll see at the 9 o'clock position. Think of this one. This is data moving, right? Think of this as sync, copy, replication. Could be manual, could be automatic. So what Dataflow has done here, if you think about it on a previous slide, right? It addresses those challenges, those petabyte needs of AI, analytics, HPC, with a software appliance that scales as workflow scale. Challenges change. You just need to license what you need and when you need it. Paul?
First, thanks, Mike. Look, if we take a step back a moment and think about those 4 pillars, we're looking to focus on data migration in this session. I'm interested to hear from you what sort of tools customers have used in the past for moving these really large data sets. How did they approach it that you were then able to say, here's what's going to be different?
Right. So if you think about it, a lot of times what happens is a customer will say, well, I'm going to try RoboSync, or I'm going to try, RoboCopy or rsync. Sorry, I mixed those two together. And what happens is it's for a small data set, it's not bad. But when you get to very large data sets, petabytes in scale, using something that you have to program, set up cron jobs, it's like taking a Pinto to the Indy 500. You're going to get crushed with the amount of work you're going to have to do. And Dataflow simplifies that, right? It allows you to program, do all interfaces through GUI if you so choose, to make everything simple, but also offload the admins from any kind of further having to administer, multiple machines throughout an entire infrastructure.
Yeah, I guess you're going to place quite a heavy workload on the infrastructure when you're going to do that, particularly with these really large loads. So maybe put it across maybe to Maria. What sort of experience have you had with customers using Dataflow for migration of those really large data sets? How does it make a difference, and what experience have they had?
Well, so with Dataflow, we have no very good experiences already that really has demonstrated how is the migration of a large data set. So we have had customers that really, they try exactly the approach Mike was commenting, use rsync, own scripts. After several failures, so we really came to us, and then thanks to Dataflow, we were able to complete them successfully. Is key with Dataflow that really is the process and guarantee that can be completed. So because with Dataflow, it's possible to overcome any issues along the migration that might happen, moving especially so large volumes. You can have network issues, hardware issues, data transfer is breaking at some point. So with data flow, we can pick up and continue the data migration where it was left. And this is actually a big advantage, this from my point of view. Now, so Mike, probably you can describe that, but really that how to pick up, be able to go and continue efficiently that data movement is really a key thing.
Yeah, so if you think about, data flow, for instance, here, especially with the migration, there's multiple ways you can set up a system, or we can set up a system for you. But what becomes important, to your point, Maria, is getting things migrated or moved efficiently. And what data flow does is has a couple different tools under the hood. One of them we call fast scan, and it allows the movement of data without having to walk a file system, as long as we can talk to the API. And that really enables quick changes. And that goes back to, let's not impact the user. Let's not impact the workflow while we're moving or transferring data from one point to another.
Yeah, what you said is very important. Like this feature that really allows data flow to detect changes and optimize that process is at the same time optimizing the change detection, and is as well offloading even the source system. In a migration process, as we see on the slide, we are moving data from source to target. Usually we have to do several cycles, and then to reduce the final cut and then detect those changes without going through that full scan. It's really a benefit, but at the same time, we are guaranteed that production is running smoothly for users. And so this fast scan feature, Mike, is available actually for multiple file systems, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So if we can talk to the API of like the NAS, maybe like an Isilon, a Cumulo, a NetApp, as well as it's available for GPFS or Gridscaler. It's a little different for Exascaler. Instead of doing, those all use, we call it the previous ones, use like a snapshot. We'll take a snapshot first time the data is being moved or migrated, and we'll walk it to validate it. Then second time around, we'll take another snapshot, and we'll have the appliance give us a differential changes that you were talking about. In the case of Exascaler, what'll happen is we're actually collecting all the change logs, and what we'll do is, instead of using a snapshot, we'll go to that server, build the change list from that server, anything needs to be acted upon, and then move that data accordingly. Again, all without having to walk or tree walk that particular source file system.
Yeah, so that's a huge benefit, to moving data, and as you mentioned, not doing it from multiple from different systems. So, and that actually this fast scan feature is of course something that benefits not only migration but all the workflows that the data flow covers, right?
Yeah, correct. So you can use it for backup. You can use it for archive. One interesting tool you can do with backup, there's something we call SnapStore. So you can actually use a backup as a DR. And what you're doing is, if we can talk to the APIs on both sides of the appliances, which source and target, from a backup perspective, you basically take a snapshot, we move that change list, and on the other side, on the new target, we'll take another snapshot, and that's your version control. So we'll move all files, all permissions, all metadata. So in the case of a DR scenario or something goes down, you can point to it and run on it right away. Maybe it's a smaller system, something less than production, but keeps you up, as well as you have time navigation and version control because of the snapshotting.
Yeah, and there something that you just mentioned, and you referred before as well, is when moving data, we are really preserving no permissions, ACLs, no extended attributes, and that's really key for all the projects. And we can do it even when we are doing migration from one type of system to a different one, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So we'll move all the data. We'll also move all of the ACLs, the metadata, file system attributes. The other thing that what happens too is with migration with data flow is, for some reason, should someone make a change accidentally on the target side, maybe somebody messed with the metadata, if we'll use that as an example, you don't have to recopy all the data. There's some tools under the hood. You can hit a button that will turn into a copy mode, and it'll go and check all those permissions and just fix them without having to recopy all the data.
Well, here now we have this slide that represents the full migration, and something that really I like to to remark is not that flexibility that really we can cover moving from anything not to anything, even cloud, right? Like, so we can move data from the cloud or to the cloud from on-prem, and all those cases are covered as well with data flow.
Correct. Yeah, we call it reverse. It's almost like a reverse migration. So maybe I want to bring something off of AWS, Azure, Google, and put it back on an exascaler. You can use the tool to do that. You can use the appliance to do that. Or you can go to multiple. You can come from multiple locations. You go many to one, one to many. Choice is yours. It all depends on how you design and set up the workflow.
Mm-hmm. And the efficiency moving data, no, we have not referred to that, no, starting on the presentation, but how really data flow does that in a different way from two other solutions?
Right. So we already talked about Petascale, which is kind of different than the others in the industry. But we also do things a little differently with the data movers for data flow. And what happens here is you may have 2, 4, 6, you could have 20 data movers, and you can pool them and put them together to improve performance. But in that pooling, you can set up what we think of as basically jobs or sub-jobs or sub-tasks when you're firing up a main task or automatically firing up a main task. And what this will do is we'll start looking for data against some criteria that are tunable under the hood. It's like the task is run for so much time, or maybe it's found so much data that needs to be acted upon, or so many files that need to be acted upon. And when we reach one of those high watermarks, we'll fire up what we call a sub-job, and you can set maybe 10 sub-jobs and 5 data movers you have in a pool. It'll fire up a job and continue looking for data at the same time. And next time it reaches a high watermark, it'll fire up another sub-job until it gets to those 10 sub-jobs, and we'll place them across that pool of data movers, 2 per data mover if they're all available. So we're basically parallelizing while we're looking for data, right? And we're parallelizing across the data movers. But also what we do is there's cores within these data movers, and let's not let them sit idle. So we'll use those as copy engines, and you can tune those as well. So we parallelize across those data movers, like you mentioned, but then we start multi-threading through them. This gets you the best performance. The data is moved or protected that much faster without having to impact the user, because you can dial things up and down to meet the workflow against the source storage you're trying to get data off of.
As well, no, we are talking about we can put so many data movers as we need and not parallelize, and it's as well very flexible. Like if we are facing a migration at some point for any reason has to be sped up, it's possible just to join, add resources and speed up the process, right?
Yep, and that goes to that scalability I was talking about early on. So you can add data movers as you need to, or even shut them off, put them in the pool, turn them off. We just won't use them if they're not seen. If they're seen, we'll go ahead and use them for whatever job transfer they've been assigned to.
So now here we are talking about the workflow, the features of data flow. No, but during a migration, as we were referring, so really usually implies a lot of work for the administrator. How data flow really makes the administrator life along the migration process easier? Yeah,
so we went through about a couple years back, started looking at revamping the process for this. And what we did is we came out with an HTTPS web GUI for migration. So you can manage a migration anywhere in the world as long as you have access. And that means you can configure the storage, configure all the tasks, but it's all GUI driven. That includes setting up schedules. That includes maybe doing exclusions or inclusions to what you want to move and not move. But it's all managed from one tool, has a dashboard with it, and it's a daily dashboard, like how many objects and or maybe how much data has been moved, as well as you can break down the projects and get granular to take a look at what they've done. Maybe you want to make some changes or tweak them, all done from one GUI if you so choose.
Yeah, and that's that tracking capabilities of data flow. That's something that really brings a lot of value to administrators. They can really follow the process. They can have partial reports. They can report how is the process going. All of that is not via this GUI, really simple to access and to follow along the entire migration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you just brought up a really good point. So with every job that runs, you get a report. And the thing about that report is eventually, especially during a migration, you have to do a cutover, but you need to know how long it's going to take to do the cutover. Inside each one of those reports, maybe when you're doing your incrementals to catch up from your daily change rate, it'll tell you how long it took to run, what it moved, like how many files or how many directories, also how many had to delete, because you can run this in echo mode, which makes source match target. And if we had to delete anything on target, we'll also tell you how to delete X amount of files. But at the end, it gives you a complete histogram of how long it took to run. So you can set expectations with the users or the corner office people to say, on a Tuesday, it's going to take me 2 hours at midnight to do my cutover, and then I'm going to switch the user, so we take a 4-hour window. Everybody gets level set with the expectations that way.
And back to the to keeping data safe and move data unchanged. So with data flow, we can make sure that's happening. All the data, if there are some checksum, there are hashing available. It's possible as well to get that not just on the fly, but get all that information about the data that has been migrated and being able to check that afterwards.
Yeah, and there's two ways you can do this. So there's a block level, which uses XX#64, which is just going to check on the read of the data and just before we write it. And it's going to actually then compare them. If they match, it'll complete the transaction. If not, it'll throw it off the stack. The one you're getting to is a feature we put in that allows you to do it at the file level. Now, this puts a little more load on those processors and those cores, because you have to do that file level calculation. But you can do inline. When we pick up the data, we'll calculate the hash, and you can choose the hash you want. Maybe MD5, maybe XX#64, SHA something or other. You get to choose. We'll store that in the database along with the time it was read and the hash, and then we'll apply it down to the target. And then right after we finish applying it in that particular task that was run, we'll turn around and kick a subtask off that'll go back and reread all the stuff that was just transferred, all the data. Recalculate that hash, put it in the database, and then put the date in there as well. So you can basically have your hash. You can print it out as a CSV report for validity, but you also can run a secondary check just by running out of the database. Say, I want to do a hash check against this bucket, and we'll go and run again against it completely and check everything one more time if you want.
Yeah, that's absolutely I think a key feature that for some customers really needing to track and to do an audit after the migration for their applications brings a lot of value, right?
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Well, we have touched some of the high more important or more relevant features of the data flow to ease the migration. So here is a summary. We have one of the main benefits that we have with that. For me, this is a really good summary of the benefits of data flow. Is anything, Mike, that you think should be added? Is not really represented here?
Well, and I think that these three summarize it pretty well, and moving data efficiently, but it's also moving data from any appliance to any appliance, and it's any location in the world too. So if you need to migrate between organizations or locations somewhere geographically, you can also put data movers in, and we can do basically encryption in flight. So you also can do protection as you're moving data. Yeah, and then the task management and monitoring we talked about, the centralized security and compliance reporting, that's a big one. That's becoming more and more of a requirement in finance, healthcare, and anybody that's doing really kind of big data transactions. You need to make sure you can do some reporting to tell people what was done, when it was done, and what the hashes were, and so forth.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, these top areas, the efficiency, task management, and centralized security and compliance really cover a lot of ground that we've been talking about, and I think that's been really great to hear that. And I think back to the audience, as you heard, DDN and Atempo have joined forces to build this range of solutions to help you move and migrate the data at scale, helping with data migration challenges. And if you'd like to hear more about that, then we've got a lot more resources posted on our website, including data sheets, customer case studies, and more. So what I'd like to do, actually, we're more or less at the end of time. We've got plenty more time we can stay on to look at questions. So don't forget, you can post questions in the window on the console. Do go ahead and do that. We also or feel free to send an email to us afterwards. I think in the chat window we've got our emails there. Contact us directly if you've got any more questions as well. You'll also see a poll section on the console where we've posted a place for you to share your feedback. We'd love to hear your comments and feedback from you on this session as well. But while we're opening up for questions, got a couple coming along in a moment. Question for Mike, actually. You've talked about it could take half an hour or even longer to an hour to move into a very large data set. And you also talked about maybe being able to run a few jobs in parallel. Is there a limit to how many of those jobs I can run in parallel? How does it impact efficiency, and how would you plan that?
It more goes to think about the infrastructure in play, because you don't want to if you're running on the same network as all the production users are running, you don't want to just take up, and the data movers can do this, 100% of the network bandwidth. So you want to make sure you scale it back a little to make sure you don't overwhelm, but you can scale it up as needed and scale it down depending on the jobs you're running.
Okay, so there's a little bit of flexibility there.
Mm-hmm.
Question across to Maria. We talked a little about cloud migration and different sources, different targets. Can you just go into just which clouds are currently supported and what our plans are for managing that?
Yes, of course. So we cover today with Dataflow. We support all the main cloud providers, so AWS, Azure, GCP, what's having. So we really know we can move data from any of them, and actually is any storage that is providing an S3 interface will be supported and will be possible to move data to or move data from to them. So that gives a full field for flexibility to cover most of them.
So that's great. That'll fit in with a lot of different environments as well. There's a couple of questions I can see on the console in front of me. One question I'm going to put to Mike. The questions come in here. The question is the data migration applicable to Lustre storage as opposed to Exascale, which you did mention.
Yep, it's applicable to both. So both the Lustre stream as well, or branch, as well as the Exascaler branch.
Okay, that's fantastic. There's another one here. I'll put this to Maria as well, about optimal speed of transfer. Whether Dataflow cuts larger files into chunks, maybe, to migrate in parallel. Does it help to overcome the bandwidth limit of a single data mover?
So today, a single file is uploaded by a data mover, so that's not displayed. That's something that is going to be added in the roadmap of the process. But today, really, as Mike was describing, thanks to the use of multi-threading, is able to do the upload at a very optimal speed. So we have measured, really high bandwidth moving large files. But yeah, that's as well a feature that is coming. Yeah.
Okay, that'll be great. Another question back to Mike, actually. We're talking about data movers. You can actually scale them up, add more and more to increase parallelism. Do you have any sizing guidance for system designers? Maybe it's on the website or somewhere?
Yeah, there's a couple of guides you can get straight from DDN on sizing your data movers, but typically you're talking about 1U boxes, 2 CPUs, X amount of cores depending on the workflow, and some memory. They're not large boxes. They just need to have a little bit of resource in them to do the type of functionality need to do, would be archive, backup, migration, or so forth.
Okay, good. And a question to you both, actually. I'm interested in, imagine you've got an organization is starting out on this journey. They've got looking at their overall workflow. We had that slide earlier that talked about requirements analysis through to verification. What do you think are the first 2 or 3 steps that an organization should take? Maybe it's auditing the data, an inventory of that, or looking at where do you think they would start? What's the 1 or 2 first steps?
So from the standpoint of understanding, and basically we talk about the data environments, you've got to understand your data landscape first and what you need to accomplish. And that doesn't just include the data. That includes, what are my connection mediums between the data? How busy are my file systems, or what the apparatuses I'm going to use? So understanding the infrastructure can help you get to that next step. And okay, I need to back up certain things, and this is what I need to do. So you don't want to put the cart before the horse. I misspoke that one.
Okay, good. There's another question coming. I'll put it to Maria as well. Whether Dataflow is included for existing DDN customers.
Well, so Dataflow is of course available for DDN customers. So I guess the question goes in the direction if it's something like included with the product. So usually Dataflow is a addition, so that can be provided depending on the use case or for the migration, and then we need to cope, especially on migration use cases. We need to really define the scope and know and really size properly the project, but it's available, and if you are interested, always contact your DDN main sales, or well, any of us, and of course we will give you some information on how we can do it.
Okay, great. Okay, well, I'll tell you what, with that, I think we'll probably bring it to a close now. I'd really love to thank my two speakers for today, Mike Oakes from Atempo and Maria Gutierrez from DDN. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks, everybody.
And thanks also to Atempo for hosting this event with us, great partnership. And thank you for our audience for joining us today. Look out for more sessions like this one soon on data management at scale with DDN and Atempo. Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.